Gamers, we're about to make another video, and this time I wanted to talk about the most OP things in this DLC. So I'm not going to talk about the old civs, I'm going to talk about the 4 new civs that are right now in the game, from Macedonian Dynasty, Sengoku, Tughlaq Dynasty, and then Golden Horde. These things are not necessarily like, if one thing I consider OP, that doesn't mean that the whole civ is overpowered. For example, there might be a civilization that has something super OP, but the civilization as a whole is not that good. But if it does get buffed somewhere, maybe that thing that I called out to be OP has to be looked at in the future. Okay, let's talk about the Golden Horde first. Golden Horde is a lot different than Mongol, and Golden Horde has a very slow start to the game, but if it doesn't take any damage, I think the upgrade where you produce, instead of 2 units, you produce 3 units, and on top of that you have Karash Edict that produces Karash every time you produce units, is insanely strong. And if you have one of those new pastures, if you have like 6, 7, 8 up, you're able to produce absurd amount of units. And it's just like a never-ending cycle of units. So initially I thought that Edict for gold generation from pastures is going to be super strong. But I think there's so many things you can do with stone with this civilization that it is just very, very strong. But like I said, because of the early game, I don't think this is going to be nerfed or looked at any time in the future, because it has a bit of a slower start, but once it ramps up, it becomes really, really, really strong. And obviously this works for like hand cannoneers, crossbows, whatever you're making, spearmen, men-at-arms, but it takes a little bit to get there. And out of like, this is overpowered kind of angle, I think this civ has the least amount of like game-breaking mechanics or game-breaking units. Yeah, I think the stockyard is something that is really strong and potentially might get maybe looked at in the future. But like I said, I think they have a slow start, so it's maybe okay for stockyard to be really strong. But basically, what it's turning out to be is players are just building stockyards instead of going out on the map because it's just that good. What's interesting is it actually has a less gather rate than, for example, gathering sheep or I think even farming. But because your villager doesn't have to move, it makes it really good. So yeah, Golden Horde, that's pretty much it. I don't think they have any glaring like super OP things. Even, for example, making Uvus with relics with one of the age ups, I think is really, really good, because eventually when you don't need stone, you can just delete those Uvus and you get the relic back. Still, that's the complete age up, so I wouldn't consider it too OP. Now, that's the least problematic one, I would say. Let's go with Tughlaq Dynasty. Tughlaq Dynasty is a really weird one. Their horsemen are really weird, which is basically those like slow horses, but they're not really horses. The raider elephants. Now, there's some things that in the future I think might need to get looked at. I think it's too early to call something overpowered, but one thing that definitely jumps out is the healer elephant. So healer elephant right now has 450 health in feudal age. And I just think it's extremely, extremely strong. By the way, why does it say it costs 220? Oh, I guess because with Dome of the Faith it's reduced. They're really, really strong. I think at the top level, they're most likely not going to be an issue, because if you get a surround and you lose them, it's a big, big loss. But I just feel like the unit itself has so many stats that it is hard to deal with. Because you can't upgrade them to castle, I think it's basically a castle unit that's available in feudal age. Another thing about Tughlaq Dynasty that I think is really, really strong and perhaps needs to be looked at in the future, maybe not, who knows, is going to be their instant upgrades. Now, their upgrades are more expensive, but the fact that you can age up and immediately in 5 seconds get veteran upgrades is incredibly, incredibly powerful. But once again, the downside, I feel like, of the whole civilization are these guys. They're very cool, they're very fun to use, but they're not horses, and you can't really raid with this civilization, which I think is the biggest problem that they have. And that's pretty much it. I don't think the rest of the civ is something that's like super OP or glaring that we gotta look at immediately. And I would say that Golden Horde, in my opinion, and Tughlaq Dynasty, they're not bad civs, but I feel like they gotta be cooked a little bit more. Next one we'll talk about is going to be Macedonian Dynasty. Now we're entering the, I feel like, these civs, Macedonian Dynasty and Sengoku, have a lot of really good stuff. Let's get started with landmarks. So first things first, Varangian Stronghold. Varangian War Camp, that's just their mechanic, and I feel like it's decent, but it's not overpowered. Varangian Stronghold, I feel like is really strong because I've talked about this before, but you can basically produce spearmen, knights, and archers from one building, which is really strong in an RTS game when you can produce multiple units and different types of counters from one building. But this thing is really, really strong. I'm not going to say it's overpowered and you win with games with it, but it is very, very strong for how cheap it is. Basically, what you can do is put Varangian strongholds all around your base, and then if you get this one upgrade, it costs 100 gold, 50 stone, all your Varangian strongholds get basically arrow slit upgrade, and you can use this building defensively, which makes it pretty good. Next thing, the first age up to feudal age, I think both of them are actually pretty good. Initially, I thought it's going to be Grand Winery every single game, but Imperial Hippodrome gives your cavalry bonus damage, which is super strong. And on top of that, you get the one champion gives you bonus torch damage, which is whatever. One champion gives you bonus damage to your cavalry, which is very strong, and it's the only way to get this champion if you build the Imperial Hippodrome. And then there's the third champion that gives, I think it's 15% movement speed to your units, which is just insanely good. Your archers have the ability to just chase down the army, whether you have Varangian guards or spearmen as well, and they're just really strong buffs, and they're all put on one landmark, and you get them for free, right? After that, if you lose them, you have to make them, but you do get them for free. So I think this landmark just has two really good buffs that are accessible in feudal age, and yeah, it's like getting kings from English, but you get 3 of them, right? So it's very good. On the other side, you have Grand Winery, which is kind of crazy. So it acts as a mill and monastery, and villagers gather 30% food faster when affected by its aura. On first look, I was like, well, this is not that great because you can put it on berries and then you'll gather sheep faster. But once you transition to farms, your farms are like English farms, basically. There's actually 2 different playstyles already with Macedonian. One is you go for the Hippodrome and you get all the really good buffs. And another one is you go for a Grand Winery and then you can slowly put farms around and your food economy is just really strong. So both of these landmarks I feel like are very strong. And even if they were to nerf one of them, I feel like the other one is still gonna be really good. Next thing, Varangian Arsenal. Now, I didn't know what to think about this because obviously you need to play a lot of games, see how the upgrades work out. The fact that you don't have to gather gold for blacksmith upgrades is really strong because you're spending a lot less gold on those upgrades. But at the same time, something that gets kind of overlooked is you can actually stay with only 2 workers on gold with Macedonian Dynasty for like first 20 minutes if you're making just units in feudal age, and you can get all the upgrades for free, right? They cost silver, which, you know, you're getting very slowly, but you're getting silver throughout the whole game, the more you mine gold and the more you mine stone. So getting these upgrades, like I said, for free, and the ability to, in some games, get +2 ranged armor or +2 ranged attack in feudal age is extremely strong. I had a game recently, I think it was against Anotand. I was playing Tughlaq with like healer elephants and archers, and he was playing horseman archer. So basically he got his horseman +2 ranged armor upgrade in feudal age, and my archers were just like not doing any damage. So any type of extended feudal age gets really scary against Macedonian Dynasty because you can get +2 ranged armor type bonuses on your spearmen or your archers or your cavalry, which is, yeah, it's very good. And same thing applies in castle. Now in Imperial, these upgrades are very hard to actually get to because it requires insane amounts of silver, and you also don't have university, so it kind of balances itself off in Imperial. But I think in feudal age and in castle age, this is very strong. Golden Horn Tower and Sister of the Hill, I think they're both okay landmarks. Golden Horde Tower makes it hard for you to end games, even if you have the upper hand against Macedonian Dynasty, but I wouldn't say it's overpowered or anything like that. And then at the end, we have something really strong once again. So Byzantine, for example, they have oil and they have foreign engineering company where they can produce siege. Now, with Byzantine, you basically choose, am I going to make siege with oil or am I going to make mercenaries with oil, right? Well, with Macedonian Dynasty, you don't need to make that choice because once you get your upgrades, the only thing you can use silver for is the units. So that means that there's no real downside to you going for either of these, and you just permanently have either cataphracts, 3 cataphracts coming every 20 seconds, or you have siege units just constantly producing, which is very, very strong. Because the amount of mining camps that generate silver you can have on the map is really, really strong. So yeah, I think there's a lot of strong things that Macedonian Dynasty has. That doesn't make it overpowered. For example, their spearmen are pretty weak, in my opinion, because they do 1 less damage. And the buff that they have with the attack speed is not that great. Now, does that mean Macedonian Dynasty is OP? I mean, to be fair, I don't know. The game has been out for like a week. It's too hard to call anything overpowered. But I would say if the Civ is overpowered, all these things that I mentioned from the landmarks to Varangian Arsenal is something that devs can look at and potentially change or nerf. Because I do think at face value, when you look at them, they're very, very strong. And then Sengoku Daimyo. This out of the new civilization, this civilization has definitely the most overpowered thing in the game, in my opinion, right now, which is the Tughlaq Township. This landmark, I don't think will ever get used at the top level because this landmark exists. It is so incredibly OP that I don't know how it went through the testing phase. Initially, I didn't know how it's going to play out, but after playing some games against Tughlaq Township, it is so pressing. It's just crazy. So why is it OP? Number one, it has the ability to basically reveal parts of the map, which is not OP by itself. I mean, maybe if you lose a scout, you can do like a little reveal on the map, but it's not like game-ending kind of thing. The ability to spawn Shinobi is the OP one, and the fact that it scales throughout the ages. So when you age up to Castle, they become stronger. When you age up to Imperial, it becomes stronger, and you get more of them. So this is the issue with this landmark. Number one, the duration of Shinobi, I think, is like 90 seconds. And the cooldown, I think, is also 90 seconds or 2 minutes. So basically, even if you misuse the ability to spawn Shinobi, it doesn't matter because you can just use them until they expire. Number two, this is the first unit that has a snare type ability, which is the ability to slow down a unit by hitting it. It's the first time, like I said, we have it in the game, and it is incredibly strong because when you do raids, for example, in AV4, if you micro well, you can always, run around and the opponent can intercept your units and try to get a hit or something. But if you're active with your units, the opponent can't really touch them. Like, you gotta be in position to attack them. And Tughlaq Township completely negates this because if you try to raid, they can spawn them on any on any building or in stealth forest. If you raid on the gold, they can just spawn the Shinobi. Once they hit your cavalry once, your cavalry will die to their cavalry. And the fact that they can miss, but I feel like they hit most of the time. The fact that they slow down your army is extremely strong because, like I said, we don't have an ability like that with any other civ. On top of that, your units take increased damage taken. There's like a weird mechanic where if you have knights and the enemy has horsemen, and I'm raiding with knights, right? He has horsemen as Sengoku Daimyo. If Shinobi hit my knights, suddenly my knights are dying to horsemen because they're taking, I think it's 50% more damage. And the fact that this ability costs nothing, and it's basically you just spam it whenever it's off cooldown, means that there's no like, oops, I messed up, I shouldn't have used it there, because you will always get the value. And there's no counterplay because the moment you raid your opponent, they can insta-spawn it, and then you get tagged and you're fucked. On top of that, you can use this landmark by scanning the opponent's stealth forest and then spawning the shinobi aggressively and harassing the villagers with them. Now, in Feudal Age, they don't do a lot of damage, but in Castle and Imperial, they do a lot of damage and they can actually kill villagers. So you can use this landmark throughout the whole game. And I think, in general, landmarks in Feudal Age that scale with each age are usually very, very strong. And this is something that, at the pro level at least, even at low levels, you're going to use throughout the whole game. And I think that if there's anything that needs a nerf in the DLC, it is this landmark, because it is way too good. Like, they either have to remove bonus damage, or the snare ability, or increase the cooldown, or reduce the duration, or maybe even 2 out of 3, 4 of those things that I mentioned. I've had a game where the opponent kind of missed Shinobi, and I kited him around, and I'm like, ooh, I dodged them. And then I realized he's just attacking me with those same Shinobi, right? Because they just last so long. So he can just use them anyway. So, yeah, I think this is the most OP thing in the game. And on the other side, you have Ryokan that is just not very good. So this is just going to be the go-to landmark. Matsuri and Yatai. I think Yatai will get nerfed eventually, almost guaranteed, as well as this landmark, because Yatai is way too good for what it does right now. So basically what it does is, the moment the game starts, you chop wood with Sengoku, and you basically try to make 2 or sometimes even 3 Yatai. And they give you up to 60 food per minute, which is equivalent to villager and a half, okay? So let's say you're playing against non-Tower Arch Civ, you're playing against, like, whatever, French, let's say. You open double Yatai, which means you have 120 food per minute, and which is equivalent to 3 workers. And on top of that, when they get charged up, they drop another 50 food to your Matsuri. And on top of that, your Matsuri gets buffed to basically be like a mini Aken Chapel. The problem with this is once again, there is no counterplay. Even if you open Spearmen in Dark Age, they will still make 1 Yatai, at least, and they're still ahead once again. So you didn't really deny anything, because they can put Yatai on berries and sheep. So you should look at it like, whenever you start the game, Sengoku will be 1.5 to 3 villagers ahead, okay? Which is just very, very strong, and the fact that food is very important in AoE 4, it just allows them to produce a lot more units than the other civs do. What could be done about this? I mean, even if you open Spearmen in Dark Age, like, Yatai can literally just run away. Even if you don't scout the Spearmen, you don't need to scout Spearmen. If you see 2 Spearmen or Yatai on board, just move away. It's that simple. It's not gonna kill it. They're not gonna kill it in time. What can be nerfed? I don't know. Maybe having only 1 Yatai per age. Maybe reducing food income from Yatai, maybe reducing movement speed from Yatai. I think a lot of things can be done, but in its current state, I think it's just too strong. And even if Sengoku Daimyo as a civ is bad, the fact that Yatai exists just puts them at extra villagers from the get-go. So even if they just make Spearmen Horsemen, they're going to be great, right? So I think right now, competitively, they're very, very strong because of that. Other than that, there's the Sake Brewery, which is an interesting one. I still don't know if I would classify it as overpowered. I mean, I'll tell you some stats and you can decide for yourself. Sake Brewery has, basically, it spawns 5 farms, and when you work them, you gather gold, and you get 350 gold per minute. But if you get all the gold upgrades and you get the Matsuri in range, it's actually about 550 gold from what I remember, which is equivalent to each worker mining 110 gold per minute for the rest of the game, which is a lot of passive income. Now, yes, it's technically not passive, because yes, you do have to put workers on it, but it feels very, very strong the moment you age up, because you just get a lot of gold. I don't know if it's necessarily OP, but it's pretty good. Now, regarding the units that they have, from the Hojo Clan Daimyo State, Oda Clan Daimyo State, and Takeda, I think that their cavalry is fine, like with the upgrades and everything. I think their archers are okay. Like, I don't think anything is overpowered then, like these upgrades. I think the melee ones are really, really strong. All three of them are super, super strong. So I can see mass infantry type of Sengoku Daimyo playstyles, even in like Castle or Imperial be super strong, but they take a while to build, and I think they're not an issue as of right now. And then last but not least, no, actually that's it. That's it. So yeah, other than that, I think that Sengoku, the rest of the stuff that it has is okay. I think the main issue, like I said, is Koka Township 100% and Matsuri/Yatai kinda need to be looked at, because I do think they're a little bit too strong. I want to re-emphasize, because I don't want people to go and be like, oh my god, that civ is OP, there's 2 OP things. English has a lot of OP things, but at the top level it's not a very great civilization just because of the way it plays out. But I would assume, you know, based on the previous DLCs and stuff like that, that if civilizations are getting nerfed, I would think these are things that are going to get hit first. So abuse it while you can. And that's going to be it. A quick in and out. Just wanted to give you guys my opinion on these things. What I personally found to be super strong. So if you're watching this on YouTube, I want to thank you so much for watching. And if you're watching live, let's keep going.